This video is for anybody who has lost themselves in relationships. And I know that's kind of like a big claim to make, because I never would have even expected myself to be that kind of person. But it's something I realized really recently. And it's not that I lost who I was completely, but I have realized recently that every relationship I've been in, I have prioritized the relationship over my own life. And I am now realizing how crazy damaging that is. Because you lose yourself. Like, even if you still know who you are, and you still know what you love, and you still know all these things, the investment into the relationship is far greater than the investment into yourself. And that just will always create an imbalance. Because if you can't invest the same amount into yourself that you're investing into your partner or your person or whoever, the growth rate is never going to be the same. You're never going to be able to meet each other on that on levels all the time. You're never always going to be able to meet each other. And when there's conflict, it's like you feel so anxious, or like slighted is not the right word. But whenever there's conflict, it's just like, fuck, my whole world is at stake because I have been giving everything to this person to try and make this relationship as best as it can be and be the best partner that I can be. But what about just like the best version of myself that I can be? What about that? Then everything else will kind of just fall into place and follow suit, and the person who is meant to be with you will be with you for who you are. And you don't lose years off of your life that you could have spent investing in yourself from investing it into somebody else, when nothing in this life is a guarantee. Like, the only person you are guaranteed to have a lifelong relationship with is yourself. And this is just so crazy to me because I have spent so much time in my life doing research on what makes a healthy and happy relationship. Because I am not just a child of divorce from my own parents, but I've experienced like 9 divorces within my family between my parents and my siblings who are older than I am. So I've seen so much of what doesn't work. And so I'm like, not gonna be me. And it has deterred me away from wanting to get married because I can see how fickle relationships with other people can be. But at the same time, you learn so much through being in relationship with other people. But you only learn so much if you take the lessons from it. If you don't continuously blame the other person for what's wrong in the relationship because you're investing so much and doing so much work and trying so many things. That doesn't justify, that doesn't mean that you are not also hindering the relationship. Because again, if you're not investing into yourself, you're not really investing into the relationship. And I took this for a long time as doing my part in terms of learning what it takes to make a good relationship or be in a good relationship. Like, that's when I always thought of handling my part and doing my part, that's what I thought. But I never took it as doing my part in nourishing myself as an individual, because a relationship is 2 individuals first. And that relationship can only be as strong as each person is individually. And I have spent so long running from helping myself because I've been afraid of failure, because I've been afraid of, what happens if I spend this time on myself and invest in these things in myself and it doesn't turn out the way that I want it to. But that's always going to be a risk. And it doesn't mean that it's not worth it, because it's the same thing with relationships. What if you put all this effort into your relationship and it doesn't work out? That risk is always going to be there regardless of what you're doing. So if you love something, if you want to try something, if you want to learn something, if you want to become something, it's so imperative to a healthy relationship. It is so important to never let go of that. And this is a reminder for me because I have spent years doing that. I have spent years doing that, prioritizing my relationship over whatever the fuck I want to do for myself. And it never worked. And sure, my other relationships didn't work out for many other reasons as well, but that is such a big part. That is such a big part. That's my responsibility. My responsibility is to invest into myself so that I can show up as this person, as the best version of myself. Because that's who we put forward when we first get to know somebody, right? We put forward what we think is the best version of ourselves, what we want to show the other person, the good things about ourselves that we use to attract those people, you know? And so once those things kind of fall away, and it's not even that they fall away, but once you spend enough time around somebody and you naturally inhabit these other parts of yourself and you show other sides of yourself, because let's be honest, you can't show somebody all of who you are within the span of a couple weeks or even just a couple months or even years, because we're constantly changing. But if you stop investing in that best version of yourself that you were putting forward in the beginning, it's over. Whatever it is over. And it's really crazy. Like, I have really surprised myself at how much I've self-sacrificed in the name of trying to make a relationship work. And it never works. Like, it never works. And I'm only 25, and I've seen it a handful of times within my own relationships, and I've seen it within many other relationships around me. You cannot self-sacrifice for the love of somebody else. You fucking can't. You just can't. You can't do it. You can't do it. It will never work. It will never work. It will never, you can't. Because you lose yourself. And again, that does not necessarily mean that you completely go brainwashing, you completely turn into this other person or whatever. Because I have remained very confident in who I am and what I love throughout all of my relationships. But I have lost myself in terms of that, in terms of making my whole life about the relationship. And it's not. That relationship is not ever going to be your whole life. It's a part of your life. And if you're over giving into this one area of your life, everything else suffers. And then this will wind up suffering because of it. So, this is so random. But one of the biggest things that I am learning right now is not only this, but I have, let's put it this way. Because of the situations that I grew up in and seeing so much divorce and breakup happen around me in my life, I have spent a lot of time focusing on relationships and like seeing what makes them work and seeing what makes them fail. And so I've learned a lot in my short period of time on this earth about relationships. I also, in this weird way, kind of came in with this innate knowing. Like, I know that as children, we all come in with this innate knowing of life, because whether you believe in it or not or whatever, like, we are even just in a cellular context, we are the culmination, we are the culmination of everything that has happened before us. And so there is cellular trauma, there is cellular memory that happens throughout your family. So the children do come in with an innate knowing. And there is also a connection to source or God or the universe or whatever that, whatever that universal energy is, that pool of consciousness is that we all come from. Children have a very clear and innate connection to that. So there is a wisdom that children carry that most people overlook simply because they cannot express it always in the way that somebody who's more mature can, or somebody who just has lived a little bit more life than they can, but children know a lot. And I came into this world for some reason knowing a lot about relationships, or like understanding what does and doesn't work in the dynamics of a relationship. Like I had family members and people come to me with relationship issues at a very young age, like under 10. And that's usually not something that you speak with children about, because what do they know? But for some reason, it kept happening to me. And every time I would say something about the issue that they were bringing me, it always surprised them. And I didn't understand why, because in my mind when I was young, I was like, that, well, it's like obvious, like that just makes sense to me. But over the years, as I've, tried to apply certain things to my own relationships and stuff, there is programming there. There's programming that happens over time, from the movies that we watch, the songs that we listen to, just everything that we consume in this world, projecting this image of what relationships are supposed to be like that is totally skewed. And so it traps us in this cycle of unhealthy relationships, not even just with intimate partners, but with family members and friends and people in our lives, because we have this expectation based off of the things that we've consumed throughout our lives that have programmed us to expect relationships to go a certain way. And they don't. They don't, because every relationship you have with somebody is different, no matter what kind it is. Everybody is an individual, and you have to be able to find that common ground and find that place of peace with everybody, regardless of their background and all these things. But so as I've gone through my own relationships throughout my teen years and my early 20s, I've really realized how much that programming has disturbed me and taken away what felt like such common sense when I was a kid. Like, yeah, of course you don't do that to your partner. Well, maybe you feel that way because you did this and this and this and this, whatever. And it's all those things I've known, but the programming that has kind of been pushed to the forefront of my mind without me even realizing it. But no, it's the programming that has kind of taken over my subconscious brain throughout the years that has stifled that innate knowing. And it's very crazy. And so I'm coming back to this version of myself that understands exactly that. Like, I'm here for me. One thing I've been repeating in my brain since like yesterday, like I literally realized this to my core yesterday. And here's the really important thing about realizations. There is something you can know, there is something you can understand conceptually, and then there becomes, and here's the important thing about realizations. There comes a time when you hear something and you can understand it conceptually, but then there will always be another moment somewhere along the line later where you fully realize that into yourself. Like, oh, this is something I knew on a logical level, but now it's really settled into my body and it completely applies, and like now I know. You fully realize that thing. And so this is something that I only fully realized yesterday. I've known forever that like, oh yeah, I have to do my own thing. I have to still do my thing in relationship, yada, yada, yada. But I always, for whatever reason, out of habit, let that slide. And in part, that's because of the programming that we receive as women that, finding a husband is the most important thing. Even if that's not said outright anymore, especially now these days, it's still part of the programming. It's like, find a relationship. And there is also a reality in terms of being a woman where that kind of is true, because man and woman, we're both here for a reason. Like, we support each other. We come together to create the whole. Masculine, feminine energy, whatever body it takes place in, they need to coexist to create the whole. And so there is this thing with women, like, kind of needing to find a man, or that female needing to find a male counterpart to create that balance in your life and create that stability. And so I have lost that innate knowing and never fully realized it into myself that investing in me is the most important thing I can do for any relationship in my life, whether it is a romantic partner or a family member or a friend or whatever it is. You have to invest in yourself. And so the words that I have been repeating in my head since I realized this yesterday is, it's about me. It's about me. And not in a selfish way where it's only about me, but my life is about me. What do I want in this moment? What do I need in this moment? Because I have been so programmed, especially as a woman, well, especially period, and this is part of like people-pleasing programming. What do other people need? I know I'm gonna be okay. I'm a self-sufficient human being, so I'll put my needs to the side. What do they need? What can I do for you first? Let me make sure that you're good first. But that fully takes away the other person's responsibility of themselves, and it neglects me. I wind up neglecting myself because I put my needs second. But it's kind of like that thing with the mask on an airplane. You know, they tell parents, put it on yourself before you put it on your kid. And that must be a hard thing for parents to hear or like really go for, because of course you want to help your kid first. Like, that's an extension of you. That's your life. That's you. You want to save it. But you have to make sure that your needs are met first. Otherwise, you can't do anything for somebody else. And it's this age-old thing of like, you can't help fill somebody else's cup if yours is not already full and overflowing. So investing in yourself is truly the most important thing you can do for any relationship in your life. And it is not selfish. There is this crazy idea going around that doing things just for you is selfish, and it's not. It's different when you do things only for yourself at the detriment of others and you don't care. That's one thing. But if you're doing something for yourself first and it's not at the detriment of other people, that's self-love. That is life. That's just what makes sense. You have to make sure that you're good before anybody else. And the world would be so different if we saw it that way, because then then everybody would realize, oh, actually, I can fulfill my own needs. Not all the time. Sometimes you do need other people. We are, humans are herd animals. Not herd, but we're pack animals. We're communal. We are communal beings. So we do need other people in our lives to serve and fulfill certain roles. But if everybody really took that selfishness idea and kind of flipped it on its head and went, no, it's actually the best thing I can do for myself and for everybody else is to show up as the best version of myself, is to fill my own cup first. So if you're watching this and you're in a relationship right now where you feel like you're losing your mind because you're trying to make this relationship work, go focus on yourself for a little while. Go spend some time with yourself. Go remind yourself of who you are and what you love, and do those things for yourself. Do those things for yourself. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing right now. So invest in yourself, and that investment will grow and grow and overflow into all of your relationships. Yeah. I love you if you're watching this, and I hope you can love yourself just as much. Oh my God.